3 years ago, I almost killed myself. I was super depressed. I was going through a depression for 4 or 5 years. I was in a major car accident when I was 19, and when I survived the car accident, I just felt like the idea I had of God, reality, and life itself just wasn't right. It just felt like I was living in a delusion, and that car accident kind of woke me up from that delusion and made me feel like I was out of place, out of touch. I didn't know what life really meant anymore. And so for the next 4 or 5 years, I really struggled with depression, and it got worse and worse. It affected everything in my life. I ended up ruining all my friendships. I, totally devastated my life. I was in a band that had a lot of promise, and I ruined all the relationships in that band. And I had a girlfriend who, we were together for a very long time, and totally ruined that relationship. And when I finally reached that breaking point in 2014, I was on the verge of suicide. And I told myself, I was laying on my parents' couch in my underwear in the middle of the day, just crying silently. I had no reason to live. And I had no reason really to be sad beside the fact that I couldn't feel anything beside misery. For no reason, it was just an ongoing feeling that slowly consumed my entire life. And I finally reached a point where I said to myself, if I don't do something to get help right now, I'm gonna kill myself tonight. And I told my mom, I said, hey Mom, this is how I'm feeling. I was already moved out of my parents' house at the time, but I was just there because I knew that if I was home, I would kill myself. So I told my mom, hey, this is what's going on. She already knew that I had depression and that there was something wrong. So I said, hey, if I don't get some help, then I'm gonna kill myself, today or tomorrow. And so she, on my behalf, called a therapist and set up an appointment, and I opened a book. And that book was called The Greatest Salesman in the World. And I sat on my parents' couch and I was thumbing through the book. I started to read it, and I went home with that book. And when I got home, I read half that book, went to sleep, and the next morning I went to the therapist. That moment was the moment at which I decided to live instead of die. And with the recent passing of Chester Bennington, the Linkin Park singer, I realized that even though I was delivered from my depression, and it's been an ongoing journey. It took me probably from 2014 to 2016 to really feel comfortable with, with being positive and living a positive life and putting all that negativity and depression behind me. But after this guy, Chester Bennington, died, I realized that this is still an ongoing problem for so many people. And even though I was able to get the help that I needed to survive, many people don't. This is not a new thing. Everybody knows that depression is real. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I've noticed that despite how transparent and aware society is toward depression, there's still a lot of people who don't understand. And they think, you hear things like, oh, it's the coward's way out to kill yourself. And I understand. I really understand and sympathize with people who feel that way because I was there, and now I'm on the other end. I'm positive now, and I don't have to worry about killing myself. What I want people to realize is everybody's consciousness, everybody's awareness, perception of reality is different. And you cannot understand what it's like to perceive life from someone else's perspective because you've got this lens. And unless you take yourself out of this lens and step over into somebody else's lens, which is impossible, then you're never gonna know what it feels like to live that way. It's the same thing as expecting yourself to understand what life is like as a fly, or what life is like as a fish, or what life is like as a dog. Another human being, even though they're super similar to you, they look the same, they talk the same, they might feel some of the same feelings, their perception of reality is not the same. And when you start to slip into a mental thought habit, a mental thought pattern that pattern continuously perpetuates in your brain. It's the same way that you don't have to convince yourself to get up and take a shower and go to work. It just happens. You don't have to convince yourself what to eat for dinner because you're probably eating the same 4 or 5 things that you eat all the time. So it's the same way with thinking negatively about yourself or thinking negatively about life or failing to connect positive thoughts and positive memories to one another. As you continuously perpetuate that, you become more and more that negative thought, whatever it is, or whatever number of things it is. That's what you become. And that's how the brain works. It's like a computer. You continuously dig for more and more patterns that connect to one another. And if you're thinking about something negative, you will continuously perpetuate negative thought patterns until you've created this neural network of negativity that you're unable to escape from when you want to think something happy. It's just like if you have someone who's at your work who's a massive NBA fan. It seems like every conversation that gets anywhere near competitive sport or athletes or pop culture, they tune in and they try to connect it to basketball just so that they can talk to you about it because that's what's on their mind all the time. So I just want people to realize that, I'm so lucky and I feel as though I've squandered my opportunity to share with people what it's like to be depressed, what it's like to overcome depression. When I was going through it, I took the initiative and shared my feelings and shared my situation on Facebook with all my friends. I sent text messages to everyone close to me, to all my family members, all my friends. I don't think I made a YouTube video, but I made it a point to get it out, to let people know, hey, I'm going through depression and I'm feeling suicidal. And people rallied behind me and they said, hey, you can make it through, you can do this. And that's all I needed. I wanted to continue to make more content about my journey and never did. But I think the important part was for me that I got it out there and I let people know. And that helped me. And I feel really bad because I know people who kill themselves, like for example, that Chester guy, the Linkin Park singer. I wasn't a huge Linkin Park fan, by the way, but it does touch me because I was suicidal at some point in my life. So some people never get that opportunity and they don't have that support. The books and the therapy might have been a better support than anything, but some people don't get that. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's important for people to realize that this is a real thing and that unless you're there, you can't understand it. And you'll never understand someone else's perspective, whether they're a depressed person or a rich person or a selfish person or a greedy person. You're never gonna know unless you're that. And that's just how life is. So I just encourage you that if you're going through something like that, make sure that you get it out there and have people, even if you don't have a lot of people in your life, make them listen. Do something to change your state. You're gonna drastically change your state and create a system of, over time, you're gonna create a system of overcoming that obstacle. And just don't let it consume you anymore. I know it's really hard. It's easier said than done, but I did it, and I know you can do it too. So, just wanted to get this out there. Encourage you guys, if you're going through this, don't let it overcome you. And much love, peace, respect. That's all I got to share with you today. So, thanks guys. Peace out.